Podcast is speeding.
What's your name? Voice name. Right or wrong, or say, I was to blame for all pain. What's his name? What's to blame?
Starting off with a bang.
You start out with a quick fade.
Oh my gosh. Well, it was adjustments on the fly there.
I know.
You warned me, but I wasn't
I
ready.
did. I actually usually don't warn you, but I did warn you because I didn't want you to be startled.
Thank you for that. That was startling.
Would you have been startled if I had not warned you?
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Did start with a bang right
told you.
off.
Yeah.
From the beginning, from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Welcome, everyone, to I've Already Told You That. I've already told you that?
I have.
I already told you that.
I already told you that. It's been established. It's been around for a while. This is a podcast about music, Brian. Mm-hmm. Where we go back in time and we re-remember some bands
Yes, we do.
that I think are kind of important. But apparently, some people, one person on side of this, just missed it. So
Flying
and we
right
go
over
back
the
through and we re-remember it and we listen to some of the music and I make a mix that accompanies this if you want to dive deeper. And then also I always encourage you to get whole records, whole EPs.
Oh, sure.
Find them.
Yes.
Listen. So if you know this band, you'll get to enjoy it and kind of re-remember along with me. And if not, you'll get to discover this band just like Brian.
Yeah, right.
And he doesn't know who we're going to talk about until the music starts.
That's right.
And usually very soon after still does not, but that's okay. It's okay. I kind of know with this one you're not going to know as much. But anyway.
Got my headphones on all backwards.
God,
One
fix
second
it,
here.
fix it.
There we go.
How are you, Brian?
I'm pretty good. Caught up on some sleep. Had a late night the other night.
Let's talk about that.
We should talk about that.
I'm so excited about that. I was thinking about it all morning about how I wanted to talk about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, because we went to a music festival.
We
and
did.
I haven't been to see more than one or two. I haven't seen more than two bands play in a row for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's the first time I've done that in Europe because we live here in Europe. And I was pretty excited. And our daughter had introduced me to a band called Just Mustard that I have been very into. And I was like, well, when are they playing? And then I looked and they were playing in Slovenia, which is not far from us. So we decided to buy tickets to this festival that was called MENT, M-E-N-T. And I didn't really know what to expect because, I've never been to it. It was described as like the South by Southwest of like the Balkan region kind of thing. And
Nice.
so I was like, that sounds interesting. But I was very pleasantly even more into it. First of all, Just Mustard was amazing.
Yes.
And also the event space that we saw it in was very small. And we had been to that exact area before because we stayed once at a prison hostel, as one does, that I'm not sure is still open anymore. I didn't go around to check, but basically you put yourself like in a cell and it's open. So you can hear all the drunk assholes coming in the middle of the night, smart. We had a kid with us. We were like, this is good for his 16th birthday.
Yeah.
We only stayed one night, luckily. But it was a cool concept.
It was the wrong jail for them.
Yes.
They should have been in the real jail.
Yes. The people,
We were in the
yes.
pretend jail.
We were in pretend jail. But anyway, it has nothing to do with it. But the venue itself was right around that area,
Yes.
which we
were
already
in the,
really liked.
in the prison facility
we were
area.
in the prison facility area. It didn't feel like a prison, though.
No, it's been turned over to the kids.
And I feel like that was so nice about that. And I think before going, we were a little sharing. Brian and I had some conversations about, when you're going to a festival like this, it definitely seemed like it was very geared towards young people, which is totally fine. I'm not uncomfortable being an older person in a crowd with music. I don't care. I also, we were talking about it, I'm very comfortable going to music by myself because I'm not really there to talk to people. I want to watch music.
That's right.
So I wasn't uncomfortable, but I was also like, oh, they're kind of, I mostly worry about them getting on my nerves, just to be honest. Because I can be a little cranky.
And to be fair, there were plenty of people there our age
Oh my gosh, so
and
many.
older.
And the great thing is that the venue itself and the young people were very nice. They were well behaved. They were
However,
very great.
they were engaging in an activity that I have not experienced in a long time. But go ahead.
Oh my God, yes, please in a moment. But I was going to say before I forget it, and then please say that, is that I had not been in a venue that small to see a band, especially the band that's doing pretty well. So it really literally was more of a showcase than a festival, which was really great. Like, so like each band actually set up their own shit. They didn't have people.
No.
They might have their manager running around trying to do something, but they didn't have, and they were on a small stage where they could only get off and on from the front of the stage.
That's right.
So they had to like go through the crowds with like their huge like gear. It was hysterical. And it was just so great because it brought everybody, and everybody only had like a 40-minute set, and they were,
Yep.
oh my
on and
God,
off.
it was amazing. But anyway, you go on, Brian. You were going to say. What were you going to
I
say?
thought you were going to talk about the fact that there was a balcony.
There was.
A teeny
That was
tiny
the other
balcony.
great part, other old person inside baseball,
Oh
is
my
that we
gosh.
found a tiny balcony in this club so we could sit. It
It had benches.
was amazing.
Yes.
And we could see really well. And it was a
Yes.
small venue, so you could basically like throw, not that you throw
Throw a
something.
baseball
You could.
and hit
But
somebody
what were
with
you
it.
going to say about that space?
I was just going to say people were smoking
Yes.
inside of the
It
club.
said not to.
There were lots of signs that said no smoking. And I was very happy to be in my little perch above the whole thing
Mm-hmm.
and seeing everybody stand down there like a bunch of doofuses. Like I've
No
done
one
a
was doofuses.
million times
I went down
before.
there and stood like a doofus.
I know. I've done it many times myself, and I'm always by like, almost towards the end of the show, I'm like, I don't know if I can do it anymore.
Oh, I like
so
being
I was
in the
so
crowd.
pleased. I do too. But in this particular instance, very happy to be sitting. And then a couple sat down next to me. Melissa left to go down and be closer because she can't help herself.
I wanted to watch Just
And
Mustard
then
in
I
person.
sat there and was enjoying the show just fine. And this couple sat down next to me, and the woman of the couple immediately was upset about something. Yeah. And the band was very loud.
Yes,
But she
in a great
started
way.
screaming while the band was playing, and I could hear her
You know, I mean, she
screaming at
was
the top
screaming.
of her lungs.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
she was upset. And this prompted the man of the couple to light up a cigarette right there next to me. He
In
was
frustration.
clearly nervous, or wanted to calm his nerves about this very upset woman that he was with. And I looked over at the no smoking sign, and I almost wanted to point at it, but
You're like, excuse me.
looked around, and everybody else is smoking their cigarettes.
I see a sign here that says there's not supposed to be smoking.
Sorry, sir. This is a
Not
no
even just
smoking
that.
area.
I don't want to get into the other thing, but like,
Oh, yeah.
at one point in the evening, not that like it felt like a really chill atmosphere, nothing really too obnoxious. And I guess to some people this isn't obnoxious, but I don't do drugs, so it was a little weird to me. We're sitting at a table, and these guys were like, everyone knows why we're here. I'm like, why are you talking like that? Like, I didn't understand what they were saying, but that's the one thing I heard them say before they did it. And then they busted out cocaine like on the table, and I was like, this is so cheesy.
It was really,
Luckily,
really, really dumb.
they did it and then left. But I was like,
Yeah.
you losers. And they were old.
Yeah, they were.
The young people weren't doing that garbage.
No.
It was the old people.
Well, I think if the young people are going to do it, they know better than to bust it out on a
Yeah,
table.
they acted like they were cool or something. It was like, what are you?
was
Like, I don't
embarrassing.
want to have anything to do with what you're doing.
was
I'm trying to
embarrassing.
watch music. And they were talking. I almost killed them. Anyway, but the thing that was so nice, I do remember turning to you during the festival very excitedly and was just like, it's so nice to see live music.
Yeah, it is.
And just like, it met all the expectations that I had for the band that I wanted to see. And then the band after was really great. They were
Oh,
called
they
the
were
Psychotic
fantastic.
Monks. They were from France. Oh my God. Fantastic. Everything was just so, like, I was worried also that I was like, I'm not going to want to be up that late. We were out till like 2:00 in the morning watching music, and it was great.
It was. It
And-
was super fun.
And I had no trouble doing so. So I'm glad. Still got it. Still can do it.
So all
We
that
did
is
it.
to say, I caught up on some sleep.
You did today.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Yes. And I was waiting to do the podcast. I've been up since 7:30 and I'm ready. Let's talk about it, Ryan.
You ready?
Oh yeah. I'm so
Okay.
excited.
Good. Well, let's get
this is
into
gonna
it.
be fun.
Let's get into it. You played some music,
Yes.
and it was started with a bang.
Yes.
And it sounded like female voices to my recollection. And there was a band, and there was some chicka chicky beat, shuffly beat going on there, which usually reminds me or is a clue to a lot of the music that you like to listen to, which comes from the UK.
It's actually not from the UK.
Come on.
I know, but it is influenced by that. So you hear
Okay.
it. Yeah. You hear
All
it.
right.
You
So I'm 0 for 1 so far.
Sure. I'm going to say the likelihood of you guessing the name of this band, and I'm not being mean. It's not
Yeah,
just
you are.
you. This band is one of the more obscure as far as like, I don't think completely obscure, but it's more of a deeper dive into that genre than general. So it would be something
General genre.
In fact, when I get together with people who like this type of music, I will bring up this band probably about fifth or sixth, and not because it's my fifth or sixth, but just because usually it's not something that people like as much as I do. So I have to wait. And what they do, we freak out.
It's niche within a niche.
It's not niche, actually. It was a very popular band. It's just
Niche.
very short-lived. So
I see. Oh, okay.
had a big impact in and out kind of
Oh,
thing.
wow. Not a flash in the pan.
Although they're still playing music, it's just different than this. They moved into a different genre. We'll get into it. Yeah, they totally changed
So we
genres.
got genre change.
I know.
We got niche with a niche.
I know, but I'm just going to spare you because there's no way. And in fact, you're just not gonna.
Susie and the Banshees.
No. Although they were influenced by Susie and the Banshees.
The Cure.
No.
Oh, we already did that.
Yeah, you just know.
You remember when I was trying to remember the name of The Cure just the other night?
Oh my God. And you were like, goth person, big hair.
say
And I
goth.
was like,
I didn't
are
say
you really
goth.
talking about Robert Smith? You can't remember The Cure? Anyway, re-remembering sometimes. Okay.
All right. So lay it on us. What do you got?
We're talking about Ecstasy of Saint Theresa.
Yeah, no clue.
I have said this band before to you.
You have not.
I so have.
Never once.
Oh my God, that's the thing. It's so frustrating.
You don't think I would remember the name Ecstasy of Saint Theresa?
We've talked about it because I've said to you that the problems in having this band is when you look it up, you know what happens is you see the Ecstasy of Saint Theresa, which is a very famous sculpture. You will not see the band unless you put
Wait,
band.
Ecstasy of Saint Theresa is a famous sculpture?
Yeah,
Now you're already telling me art
it's one of the most famous sculptures in it's
in the
basically
whole world?
It's a sculpture of I think she's a nun in like
Saint Theresa.
spiritual ecstasy, and then there's and she's kind of like this.
Oh.
I'm doing poses.
You're
for
doing
you.
poses.
She's in
Hands.
ecstasy.
She's
and then there's an
Imagine
angel
a
right
saint
above
in
her
ecstasy.
with an arrow.
Ready to
But
take
he's
her
kind
out.
of like doesn't look upset. But it's in Rome.
He's just like pointing
The
at
crazy
her.
thing is we haven't gone to go see it. We need to. So it's not in it's one of the smaller churches, but
Oh my
we need to go see
gosh,
it.
Melissa.
Yes. It's one of the
Wow.
most famous of that time period. So
Okay.
anyway, it's a big
Well,
deal.
Gosh, I guess I need to go look at the Ecstasy of
We
Saint
need to
Theresa.
go see some nuns in ecstasy.
All right, so
Yeah.
these guys are clearly inspired
This is a
by
band.
religion
And this
and
band-
religious music and
that's not-
played in the church.
I think it's more, I can't speak for them. Well, I will say right off the bat, a lot of this is going to be allegedly, and I have some sources, but the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, when I was young, I don't know if it's the or just Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. So I'm
Okay.
going to go with Ecstasy of Saint Teresa.
Fair enough.
There's only a few releases, and almost all of it's out of print. The stuff
Okay.
I'm talking about. So I've wanted to cover this band probably in the first 3 months that we did this podcast, but I was having a hard time locating music, and it was frustrating to me. Or like you can find like whole EPs, but I for once was like, I'm not going to let this bother me. I'm going to sit down with whatever thing someone uploaded and take a whole EP and break it down. It's fine. Like I'm going to have patience because I love
Wait.
it so much.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we're going to get into it.
You're going to have patience with this?
No, I don't usually have patience.
So when do we get to find out how you learned about this band?
Well, let me tell you. Well, there's a few factors.
Uh-huh.
This music started in 1990.
Okay.
And as you know, I'm a fan of music around that time period.
That's right.
I didn't know at the time that they're from the Czech Republic. They're from Prague. I thought they were a UK band because I didn't know. I was young. I was probably...
You didn't know that.
I didn't know that part. That was kind of... I'm pretty sure the first time I got this was I was at Wax and Facts in Atlanta before I lived in Atlanta. I was
Okay.
on tour, and it was the first time I went to Wax and Facts. And they would have, like in record stores, they have like a listening,
Ah, yes.
what they're listening to. kind of
Okay.
thing. And an EP for this band was on there.
On
and,
display.
And it's still one of my favorite pieces of music, which we will get into. And I immediately bought it. I
Oh.
was like, holy shit.
Did you listen to it?
Yeah, religiously.
Well, I know. I meant you're standing there in Wax and Facts. You're just like, oh, somebody recommended someone to buy right now.
No, I didn't recommend it. It was playing.
Oh.
I could hear it. So I
it was
knew I
on
liked
the
it.
what's playing right
And I was
now
like,
stand.
excuse me, what is this?
I see.
And I'd never heard of this band. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. So like I totally lost it. And I continually listened to that EP forever.
So it was like a right place, right time situation.
Yes. And also I didn't know until I was doing a little research. I think part of the reason that happened is, do you remember Caroline Records?
Yes, vaguely.
They reissued it. So
Okay.
I think it had come out a few years before that, and I probably got it in like 96, 94, something like that.
Okay.
Because it had already been out, or I got it earlier. I just don't really remember because the time's kind of fuzzy back then. But because I could have, but I don't know if I got it in 93 or 94, or if I got it in 96. But anyway, that's how I got it, and I didn't know anything about them, and I still. No, I was kidding. I know a little bit more. Just kidding. So the band, Brian, primarily the band that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about 3 of their releases.
Okay.
Because the first 3 that I'm very into are much more in the, I don't want to use genres, but they're a little bit more in the shoegaze genre.
Okay.
And
what do you mean by
and
that?
Noise. What do you mean?
Well, you say you don't like genres, then just describe what you're talking about.
I'm going to.
Okay.
Going to. I just don't like it. If I say that, then someone's just like, well, I don't like that, so they don't listen or something. It's like, no, there's a lot to it. But that was definitely one of the pulls for me. But the band at that time was the main person is Jan Muchow. I think spelled Muchow. Did you say?
Could be Muchow.
Yeah, I'm sorry if
Muchow.
I'm sorry if I'm at all not saying that correctly, because I can't. I was looking all morning for someone to say it. He's also at this point he's the main person that started the band. He's a guitarist, a multi-instrumentalist, a programmer, and he's an actor as well, and a model in Prague. So he's pretty famous there. So I'm sure people in Prague, if they're listening to this, are very upset with me for saying his name wrong. Understand that I have much respect and love for him.
Apologies, Jan.
I just never heard his name said. So,
of course.
The next person I would say in the band is Jan Gregor, and he played bass.
2 Jans.
Yeah, he played bass. Peter Wigner played drums, and then Erna Leibowitz played. She sang and played other instruments. And she was in the band from 90 to 94, which is what we're going to be talking about. And I have a very silly quote here, Brian. I wrote in a way to like explain me liking them. I was like, you know how in Beetlejuice she has that quote, Lydia Dietz, where she says, I myself am strange and unusual. I would say that this music, I think I like music that is strange and unusual. And that's what's so great, I think, about this band.
Okay.
What's brilliant about Ecstasy of Saint Theresa is that they are totally unpredictable. You never know where things are going to go, but you know it's not going to be boring.
Okay. Well, that's good.
And it's, I think, even more different than all the other shoegaze bands. More in the line, they were definitely influenced by My Bloody Valentine for sure. But then I think they did their own thing with it and deserve to be in a class of their own. Great stuff. And also, all these shoegaze bands, and I'm sure... Shoegaze bands. Dinosaur Jr. was very much part of that too.
Sure.
And so you're going to hear a lot of that. And I think I will beg to say, not beg to say, but I believe that I can convince you, Brian, that this would have been a shoegaze band you would have been into.
Okay.
Because it has some elements of things I think you very much like.
Okay.
Like the Vaselines.
Yes.
Uncle Tupelo, some influences.
Oh.
I know you won't even believe it, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to do it right now. So their first record, the first thing they put out, like it always happens in Europe, is an EP, and it was called Pigment, and it came out in 1991, and it was produced by them and also someone named Renee Briella, Breila, and it was on Reflex Records. And you have to understand what's going on. And I didn't get this until I did a little reading, and I'm going to attach an article about Ecstasy of Saint Theresa.
Okay.
It was the fall of communism.
Ah, yes.
And so
they
say the
wall.
fall of communism, John Peel and absinthe is what created Ecstasy of Saint Theresa. So when they were first forming, and like I said, I don't want to misquote anything, so I'm going to attach the article. And that article is by Wyndham Wallace. You couldn't buy just records that you wanted to that were Western. You couldn't get shit. So like you kind of knew the people who were into weird things because you had to go through a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So like that's what's also so interesting to me is the way they're going to sound. And they really did not have the radio stations were like they had said they had very few record labels. It was like everything was very, constrained. So you just didn't get that kind of stuff coming through. It wasn't like they were in the UK, it was very different time. But I think that's what makes it, you can hear this interesting alchemy happening in the music, I think, because of it. So I think we should just
So they were dealing with their constraints and coming up with something that was unique and interesting.
Or probably hearing lots of different weird things in the way that you would find things. I don't know. So, when you get something, you can't maybe choose as much, but it's still interesting.
Uh-huh.
This song was the first song we heard, but I want to hear a little bit more of it. It's called What's, and we're going to hear from the beginning and then another little part of it.
Yeah.
Did you already hear the thing I'm talking about? What does that make you think of, Brian?
You're talking about the stops and starts.
What does that make you think of?
It makes me think of Uncle Tupelo, Melissa.
I knew it. I shouldn't have said it already because I wanted you to hear it and be like, wait a second. Have you ever heard a band like this do that?
It was like you were giving me a quiz and you had the like word choice, the word pool at the top. And so you were giving me the
You're
word
looking
pool.
for Uncle Tupelo.
Match these two bands.
Although
You have
I
to draw
don't
a
know
line.
that they were being influenced by Uncle Tupelo.
You never
but
know.
You never know.
Well, Uncle Tupelo was being influenced by the Minutemen, and the Minutemen could have been influenced by them or other punky things that are happening at the same time. So,
I just think
stop and starts are always fun.
Yes, they are.
That was pretty sharp stop and start.
Yes, I thought you
Man.
would really like that.
So yeah, you can tell a connection to, it sounds very UK-ish band with that kind of fast.
Has that Ned's Atomic Dust Band
Exactly.
kind of like, the bass is definitely that. Yeah.
I wasn't going to say Ned's Atomic Dust Band because you
it's
always
there.
make fun of me
No,
for saying that.
That one is right there. You can hear it.
But yeah, it's that kind of driving bass line and the like 16th notes on the hi-hat
yes.
situation.
Let's hear a little bit more of What's.
Okay, let's. That is very exciting.
Yes, I thought you would like it. That's why I was really like, I was just excited about talking about this band. But as I listened to it, I was like, you know what? I think he's going to like Ecstasy of Saint Theresa. Thank you very much. And I don't go at these things to not. That's always my objective, is to make that happen. So I think it's great. And I think what's so interesting about them, like I said in the beginning, is it's very unique. It's not, I don't think they're so predictable in the way that some
No,
bands
that was
can be.
crazy. I wasn't ready for the wah-wah solo
No,
there in the
that's
middle
another
of the
reason
stops
I wanted
and
you
starts.
to hear that, because you're always like, no one does any wanking or playing just like solos. Like, people do. They do
I
it.
don't say no one ever does.
You said no one ever did.
They never even pick up a guitar.
You're like, I don't know why they never, ever, ever do.
Melissa's using a new device
I
today,
am. It
ladies and gentlemen.
stinks.
So if you hear the clickety clack over there, she's
Or
pounding
my
away.
Also, what's hard is, like I told you, this particular EP you cannot find. It is gone.
So did you have somebody like email this to you or something?
And like I said, go buy it. And the other thing I do
How
is
are they supposed to find it?
every time, just so you know, this is something I do that maybe you don't know, is every time I've been to a record store, I look for this band.
Really?
Every time.
And?
Because I only have one thing of theirs.
Uh-huh.
They're out of print. You have to find it. I don't find it. I should have done it when we were in Prague.
You shoulda.
But I didn't know they were from there. If I'd known, I would have looked. Anyway, yes. So that's like a practice of mine. I even did it this summer when I was at Harvest. Like every time I go, I just look to see if.
So next time you're in the record store, ladies and gentlemen, look for Ecstasy of Saint Theresa.
If you see it, buy it.
And mail it to
So anyway,
Melissa.
but so when I'm not that anyone needs to know my mechanics, but as we're doing this, it's kind of a pain because I have like one whole upload, so I have to like find spots.
Oh, I see. So you're finding points within a track.
Yeah.
Skills.
I know, it's a lot of skills. Let's listen to another song. This song is called Square Wave.
can see why we're firmly planted into your beloved shoegaze zone there.
Why do you say that?
That could have been Ride singing coming up next. Oh.
No one needs that. Nobody needs that. I don't
Do you
know.
disagree?
I mean, I hear some of that, but I hear, like, I think they're pretty... But let's listen to a little further into it, because this song drastically does all kinds of things. So let's listen to a little bit more of Square Wave. And you'll notice today I'm playing a little bit longer clips, because when stuff is completely out of print, I think it's okay to play a little bit more of it so you can hear it. Lots of moving parts.
There's some moving parts.
I wrote a note that said, I like the high end I'm hearing. Its tinniness almost makes my teeth hurt.
Yeah, it's very tinny.
But I like it.
I would
like
say that's more characteristic of the time, the recording stuff that was
recording stuff, you
available.
think?
Yeah.
That's
I
why
imagine
my
if they
teeth
did it
hurt.
today, there would probably be a wider spectral range.
Well, this next song will have some of that. I just wanted to say too that I think that what's interesting about this bands and bands like this is that they're so obviously experimenting and throwing out like the old playbook that they're making something completely new, which doesn't happen every day. And it was extremely important. And I hate that some have chosen to write off this experimentation, like this time period. And because they want to see art through like this lens of trends and fads and genres, like we were talking about before. We were talking about genres, like when I was saying shoegaze, and I'd always want to say that.
Yeah.
They like giving these to bands so they can classify them, like just to classify them, you know? And I think that each artist deserves individual attention.
Sure.
And a different focus, and it's worth it. But unfortunately, when that happens, I think it makes people just kind of... Makes plenty of people like it, like myself.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of people that get turned off by that sort of thing. And I think it's kind of a short attention span situation, or just a way to categorize things.
Sure.
That I think is kind of boring. And that's why I don't like saying that, because I think it's more than that. What I think is like I said, so interesting about this time period is I heard so much experimentation going on, so much different sounds going on. I think it was pedals. A lot of the thing is like all the different pedals that come out. It made some people do different things, but I just think it was just so, I don't know. I was so stimulated by it. It was great.
Nice.
And I didn't think it was at all boring.
Well, and I mean, I'm sure there's long conversations about genres and where they come from, but at the end of the day, if you walk into a place and you need to categorize something so you can put it somewhere,
Alternative music.
yeah, you know,
I think you can do
you've
that.
you got a store that you're trying to get people, like you wouldn't put the hammers with the saws.
No.
You know,
And I don't like the term alternative either, but I think that's at least more like, it's going to be different. So I can handle that one.
Sure.
But then you don't have a preconceived notion.
Would you put this under
Although
rock music?
I will say, if people say 90s alternative music, I'm always so upset because I fucking love the 90s. But what they're talking about is not what I am talking about. And it's not alternative music. So I get irritated because I'm like, it's not weird enough. It's just rock music. It's like, why are you calling it alternative music? Anyway, we're not going to get into it. I digress. Speaking
Back
of,
off, 90s
let's listen
music
to this song. It's called Who's. I like 90s music. It's just whenever it's like, say you're on Pandora or who no one uses
Pandora.
Like, excuse me, you're on Spotify or YouTube Music and you want to like listen to like your early 90s music that you love. It's like, it's not that for me. Like it's always wrong. It's like completely wrong. It'd be like one song I like and like followed by like 20 that I can't stand.
You don't want Soundgarden.
So it just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And anyway, is being ignored, at least by the Americans. So let's listen to this song, Brian. It wasn't being ignored everywhere else. You're going to say, Melissa, what? I feel passionately about this.
Yes, she does.
A little bit.
She's not a snob, ladies and gentlemen. She just
not a
has particular
snob.
flavors.
I'm not a snob.
Nope.
Okay. This song is called Who's.
Like what you like. Somebody's been listening to Husker Du as well.
Dude, it doesn't even matter. Like, also, remember, I think what you can say is it reminds you of Husker Du. Let's not say that people are ripping off anyone.
Well, you were saying that they were
I don't
getting...
think that's what's happening.
I'm not saying they're ripping them off at all, Melissa. You started this whole thing about how these people where they were living were getting little bits and pieces from the outside world.
Yes.
So chances are that got snuck over there.
Yeah.
I mean... Husker Du probably toured Europe, you know,
I don't
and
think
they were.
Husker Du is the only people that ever played that.
Of course not. I'm just saying, in terms of like, if you put on a track of Husker Du at the same time, saying the way it sounds and the way the drummer's playing and the way, I mean, it's a very similar kind of situation.
Yeah. I think it's definitely the time period too.
Ladies and gentlemen, I cracked open.
You did not. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's okay, Brian. I'm not.
I see the look. She goes
There is
shark
no
eyes
look.
on me.
I'm not shark-eying it. Oh my gosh, this is the first heart of the podcast. You're breaking my heart. There's a little bit more. I'm playing 3 sections of this Who song because it's one of my favorites. So
Wait, this is the Who?
Who's?
Not the Who.
No.
Okay. Wait, who?
Stop it. You're trying to do a Who's on first. I get it.
Yeah.
Who's?
Nice. I'm surprised you never put this on like a mixtape or anything.
I've played it around you.
You've never have in my life. Never once.
Oh my goodness. And I think the other reason I was pushing back a little bit on the Husker Du thing is it's kind of going back to the thing I was talking about before is like, I like Husker Du. I'm into it. And I like a lot of those kinds of bands. They're really great. You know, we talk about foundational things. Very great. All I'm saying is this is way more experimental.
Okay.
That's all I mean. Like, I think you're taking
According
like
to
a whole
you.
bunch of stuff and juggling them up in the air. I don't think, like, by the end of this, you tell me you don't think this is experimental. I will take it. But I do think so.
Okay.
Let's go a little bit further into Who's, the last section. I'm going to play of it for you. I love that so much.
I'm just saying, like, this weekend, the bands we saw this weekend, 2 separate bands who had definitely had 2 separate sounds, but they complemented each other well because they were in that general vein of like kind of noise, experimental, weird sounds. But they went well together. So even though Husker Du might be coming from a different place, I think it goes well with this. Like they complement each other.
I agree.
If I can say that.
You can say that.
Okay, good. And I did.
Oh my gosh. Silly Dilly. This is the last song from Pigment I'm going to play. This song is called Honey Rain. What do you think about that, Brian?
I think it's good. It seems like it's just getting going.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a long song.
Okay.
A lot of their songs, not a lot. Like it seems like half will be like more of a traditional length, and then other ones will be 6 to 7.
Okay.
And this is one of them. So we're gonna go back up
All right.
on Honey Rain.
There's a wall
Yeah.
of things happening.
There is. I kind of like walls of
You
things.
do. You definitely do.
I'm a wall
Is there
of
any
things.
is there any point at which these people are losing it, Melissa?
I think that might be in the next section.
Oh,
I have a heart
okay.
next to it.
All right.
I mean, it's not losing it in the same way that you're probably thinking about it, but I think it's pretty.
Okay.
Losing it. And yes, that does happen at some other points. You will hear losing it
Okay.
because I'm a fan.
You definitely, that is in your top 5 of things you enjoy about music.
I like when people lose it. Okay, this is the last section of Honey Rain I'm going to play.
Open your face to my
So I will say, if you listen to the whole song, that does feel like a build-up right there. You know what I mean? Because there's little nuances to it. There's different tonal things that are happening, and different, like different things you're probably hearing in your headphones that build up through time. And I think you would probably enjoy that one a little bit more if you got to hear
Always
the whole
difficult
thing.
to hear a song in little chippy choppy bits.
No, it's what
and
I don't
pieces.
like. I don't like. But now, Brian, we're going to get to their first full-length record.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you it's spelled, and we're going to help each other say this. It's Sussurrate, which I think they mean saturate, maybe? Or is it just
S-U-S-U.
Sussurrat?
Susurrat.
Sussurrat.
Maybe it's a word
say,
in another language.
When I was younger, I used to say saturate.
Oh.
Because I'm dyslexic, and I looked at it and I was just like, saturate. So, but I know it's not. It came out in
Saturate to you.
1992, and it's still on Reflex Records, and it was them producing it as well as Ivo Heger.
Another Ivo.
Different Ivo.
Interesting.
I know. It is, isn't it? I have a huge heart next to this record. I love it, and I think we should listen to some of it. This one is called Pistachio Places.
Wow. That one's happening.
You like it?
Yeah.
I think the reason I thought you'd like this one a little more is it's much more blended with punk rock. Mm-hmm. I think than any other shoegaze marriage.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about earlier with Husker Du, hearing it. You don't really hear Husker Du and the other ones that I might have played for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel very much a Jamascusness, a thing.
In this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
There's a lot more drum work. Like he's putting some work in there.
It's nice. What I really like about this record more than the previous one is it's even more noisy. Mm-hmm. It's super noisy.
Yeah, and I remember when we were getting set up for this and checking the levels and stuff, and you're like, this one's gonna be a little more quiet. I don't know if this is loud enough. It's plenty loud, Melissa.
Yes. You're right, Brian. It did that thing again.
Don't zoom it.
I didn't zoom it.
Do you want a mouse?
No. I just hate it. It's okay. Anyway.
Need to get the old pad back in place.
So that last song we heard, Brian, is 7 minutes long. a little
Wow.
bit. Yeah, but it's wonderful. You should listen to it. It's swoony. And I'm pretty sure My Bloody Valentine has a song called Swoon. So I think they were saying swoon, swoony.
Interesting. Well, of course, everybody can listen to all these songs on the mix, right?
Yes, you
so always encourage everybody to go back and have a listen
And also, like I said, if you can find these albums,
and send them to Melissa.
you send them to me and then buy yourself one after. Okay, let's listen to the next song, which we're going to listen to. And I'm not listening to every song on this one. The EPs, we are listening to all the songs on the EPs.
Okay.
Because there's not that many.
Got
but
it.
the record, we're only going to listen to most of it. Not all of it. This song is called To Allison.
Took a little different tack there on that one.
It's a little soft and supple. Mm-hmm. A little quiet. I don't think it's going to stay that way forever.
Okay.
I think it's going to change.
Of course.
But I like that, you know, even though this record is very noisy and bombastic and all those things, there's softness and quiet and range to the sounds. Let's go up a little bit again on To Allison.
They do like the sudden flipping of the switch.
I know.
Type.
How do you feel about the sudden
Transition.
switching of the switch?
I like it just fine, but when I'm trying to make sure we're not blowing people's ears up, like,
That's the only reason I warned you earlier. I was like, I guess I'm going to have to warm him a little bit, because if I don't, he will have his ears blown off and he'll be like, what'd you just do to me? And
Yeah.
I didn't really want to freak you out that bad.
yeah, no, it's cool. I definitely like a sudden switch.
You,
Keeps you on your toes.
It's unpredictable.
It is.
And how much music is unpredictable anymore?
None of it.
I mean, at
all
this point, it's
predictable.
kind of hard, but I like it when people manage to do that, but not just for the sake of doing it.
Right.
That's boring.
No, just to keep it interesting and
And it turns a corner. Like, that's one of my favorite things when you're listening to a song. You're like, oh, this is good. And then suddenly it just like it left turns into something that's even better. And you're like, wow, wait.
But there is also like the build and release type situation, that can be
Your
satisfying.
classic catch and release.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm
That's
into
right.
that.
Because even the other night when we were watching those bands, I was watching people because you could see the band like they're building up, and everybody's like freaking out. They can't wait for it to explain.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
Several of the bands we saw were like that. And I'm a fan.
Yeah, it's
That's
great.
why I like
It's a good feeling.
Just Mustard Band. Yes. Like, give it to me.
But
right
if
now.
you're like, oh, this is cool, they're playing something quiet. Whoa, oh my God. They just blew my mind away.
That's even better too, though, to me. That's unpredictable. See? You knew they were getting ready for it. What if you don't know? And then you're just like,
Yeah,
all
but then-
chaos breaks loose. And
And
you're just
then you're
like,
scared and you don't know what to do.
I don't know. I think that feeling.
Really?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Living on the edge.
Unless that edge is doing cocaine on my table. And then I'm not. I'm
Take
not.
your edge somewhere else,
Yeah,
please.
That's not my edge. That's my
I don't
edge.
even want to. I don't even think that was actually drugs. I think
I think
they were just showing off. Yeah.
Oh my God, they're
It was
so losers.
Stupid.
Anyway, I don't want to talk about it anymore. They were total losers. We'll listen to a little bit more. This is my first heart of the album. This song is called Ice Cream Star.
Okay. Yeah.
What do you think about that, Brian?
It's good. It's grooving.
It is. Remember last time we did a podcast, but it's not last
Yes.
week. It was
Last episode.
last episode when we did Peter Gabriel. And he had the rule about the no symbols.
Yeah. There were some symbols in there, though.
There's some symbols on it. I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's no symbols. What kind of dummy? Like, it would be really weird to hear that song and be like, there's no cymbals.
There's 0 cymbals in there.
There's like 0 cymbals.
no, it's totally hitting cymbals.
There's a lot of cymbals. Okay, this is one of those, a heart within a heart.
Okay.
This section has a heart
Oh.
of Ice Cream Star.
Yeah, that's cool.
Love, 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 love.
Yeah.
And if you're new to this podcast and you hear me saying silly things like I put a heart next to it, we have a very, very serious rating system for this podcast. And I use a series of graphs and questionnaires
numbers
to determine what songs get hearts next to them.
Right.
Although Brian made a really good suggestion, and I think I'm going to do it. He said, you should make a mix of all the songs you've said that you put a heart next to.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I should do that, but
The
I think
heart
I kind of
mix.
already do. But you're right. And there's sometimes when I say double-hearted, that mix would be
Well, you
insane.
used to have like a number of hearts. Like this is a single heart, this is a 2-heart, this is a 3-hearter. And then you did, this has a big heart.
I know. Or this
and
is a
then
filled-in heart.
This is a biggie heart.
As I've said many times, Brian, there's one thing I'm known for. It's consistency. So, I think
So
it's
is there
just
ever
nice.
that have like a tiny heart?
I mean, they're all kind of tiny, really. I mean, just like mine. But it's like, no, it's just nice because it reminds me as I'm going through it, I'm looking at my really bad handwriting and misspellings, and it just helps me to remember like something really fun's happening to you right now. Like, just so you know, this one section, you get goosebumps, which is what that heart means. Is like, this
so
is
now
a
you're
section that
introducing
gives you
bumps.
that. Yes. Like, but that wouldn't be but how would you represent that on a drawn, like graphic way?
Like how high your hairs have raised.
Yes.
They're half mast, full mast.
I don't know. It's difficult,
No, I like the heart system. I think it helps.
Thank you.
And it's always exciting to find out which ones have hearts.
Yes.
Because some of them are there just for context. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
they're working on this. You can see it's changed. The sound's a little different. But when you get into hearts, it's like, oh, this section. This is what really,
I will,
pulls us in.
I also think when I fill it in, I've taken the time to actually color in the heart. It's especially distinct. But that's,
okay.
we don't want to get too into that. But
Well,
anyway,
it's a new detail.
I just wanted people who are new to this podcast to be like, why does she keep saying hearts?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway. So, Brian, this song, when you listen to the mix, if you listen to it, but you should, this one has a video. So don't be startled when you see a video and you actually see what they look like and you get to see them playing.
Okay.
Because this song was a single. And this song is called Thorn in Your, like YR with an apostrophe, grip.
Weird.
How do you feel about those drums? Because I know you have feelings.
It was like in your face for a bit there, and then it like floated way to the background.
I think what they're doing is, I think we used to do this sometimes as a band, is like, you know how you record drums in a studio.
Sure.
But then sometimes you can switch to another channel and go to the mic of the person who's in another room
Yeah.
and picking up picking up
reflection,
of the sound.
yeah,
You know, like, so like the vocal mic is like in the next room is catching what the drums sound like that are playing very
Bleed.
loudly in the other room.
That's right.
That's kind of what it sounds like to
Yeah,
me.
that is
on
maybe
purpose.
what was happening.
On purpose. It's not a mistake or anything.
Right.
It's definitely not on purpose.
Interesting.
I like it because it brings you in and out. I think it'll go back to it.
Okay.
Let's listen to a little bit more of Thorn in Your Grip.
All right. I could imagine them being an exciting band to see live.
Yes. And I really do hope at some point they will, because like I said, I'm sorry, I hit the microphone with my thing. I made a little bit of noise. Ecstasy of Saint Theresa still exists as a project.
Okay.
But they play different genre music entirely.
Interesting.
So, yes. We'll get to it in a minute.
Okay.
I mean, I can kind of tell you. I mean, they got electronic
Oh.
and ambient. And
Weird.
We'll get into why in a little bit. For like a little detail I found out about why. I've always wondered why, and I don't know if it's true. It's an alleged, but it was on a pretty reputable site, so I thought it was funny that it was there. But we'll get to it in just a minute.
Okay.
So I want to pick one last song from this record.
All right.
This song is called Absinthe, which Brian and I had the joy of trying just recently.
It really helped me remember
Yes.
all this stuff.
I was like, I don't remember anything at all about the experience, but it seemed okay. We went to a bar that Hemingway went to apparently, and so we felt like we had to do
That's
it there.
right.
Anyway, this song is called Absinthe, and I have a big heart next to it as well. Oh, just a heart. I'm not
A
stop
heart
saying
filled
big.
with
I'm just going to say a heart.
yellow
I need to
greenish
stop
liquid.
confusing people. Yes, yellow.
with the
It smells like licorice. Here you go. Absinthe.
Whoa.
This is the noisiest of the noisy songs on this record. I will just tell you, the whole middle of this song is mostly noises like that.
Yeah.
It is great. It is really, really fun and very loud. And I would love to hear this song live. But I was going to, you were saying earlier about maybe we could see them. Yes, I would love for them to what do they call it? Reunion, Brian. Have a
That's what
reunion.
it is, yes.
I would love for that to happen. And if it does, I will be there. But I said, I will admit that this song is, what did I write down in my notes? I can't say, this song can be challenging for some, but that's what makes it special. Because it's noisy, like it's not maybe I'm gonna make some loud noises, like it's very intentional, but I think at this point the sound is being used as an instrument. And I think a lot of great bands do this. I think Medicine is another one that I love that does this as well. So let's listen to a little bit more of Absinthe.
Going off.
Aren't they? That's
Yeah.
the buildup. You heard it. You could tell. Because it's kind of a subtle one, but when it does, but there's so much happening. I would love to see that live.
There is.
That would make my head explode. I'd be happy. I also wrote this little note, Brian. I wanted to remind myself that I had a little bit of a thought about I wanted to say after this record and hearing it, is that sometimes when I'm talking to someone that hasn't heard a lot of this kind of music, they tend to just write it off, which is what we were talking about earlier. And I think that why they do that is because they're unfamiliar with it. And I think human beings in general, when they're unfamiliar with something, it makes them uncomfortable.
Sure.
So they say they don't like it or they're not into it. And I've experienced this a few times. And that's okay. But I'm saying I've even done it. Like for a long time, I thought that stand-up paddleboarding was really awful. But why did I think it was awful? I didn't know anything about it. Just because I saw it and I had an impression. But I didn't know
Right.
anything about it. And then, as I've said before, I did it and I felt very differently about it. Embarrassingly so.
Yeah.
So I feel like the same thing occurs.
Well, and I think this connects to the conversation about genre that you were talking about earlier. Something gets associated in a particular way.
Yeah.
You just assume like, I'm not going to like that because it's associated with whatever it's associated with. And if you're not like doing that or connecting to that in your life and your lifestyle and the things you do, you can be uncomfortable with it.
Also, just like we don't want to look like we don't know what we're talking about. So people just say they don't like it. So the other thing I wrote though is that one time I have a direct reference to this is I was talking to somebody, a very nice person, and I was talking about a band I was going to go see or something, and I was excited about seeing while I was in the States. And he said to me, he's like, well, I just don't really like that genre of music. And I was like, well, what about... I was like, well, what? I just said it really nicely. I tried to be disarming, and I was just like, I wasn't defensive. I just said, it's a whole genre of music. What about it? Do you not like? Like, what element of it do you not like? Is there something like, is it just too noisy, or you don't like the effects? And finally he said back to me, he's like, and it was so nice because he was so honest. He's a really interesting person who's very genuine. And he just said to me, he was like, honestly, I don't even really know much about it, to be honest. And he started laughing, and we both laughed because that's where I got that idea from, is that he was actually an honest person with me.
Yeah.
He put up this pretense of like, well, I don't really like that kind of stuff. And then I was like, well, why? And he was like, well, actually, I don't really know it. And I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that can happen, but also you might not like it.
That's true.
That's okay too.
You can fully understand something
Yes.
and not like it.
Yes. And it may seem like I'm here to convince someone to like something, but that's really not. I just think it's good to give things a little bit of your time and attention.
Sure.
And if you don't like it, then fine.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact this band, if you listen to especially that last record from start to finish, you would like it.
Okay.
Because I know your taste. But I could be wrong.
She's not talking to me. She's talking to all of you.
Yeah, I meant you. Yeah. Thank you, Brian. So now we get to, this is the first thing I heard by them, which will be the last thing we're
So
listening to.
you are walking into Wax and Facts, and this is what's on
This is
the
a record
hi-fi.
store in Atlanta. Yeah. And I figured out why. I was like, it seemed like a pretty obscure thing, but it wasn't. This EP came out in 93, and it reached number 6 in the UK. I'm sure with the help of some John Peel attention, but also the indie charts, the CMJ. This was in the top of the CMJ charts.
Okay.
This EP. There are only 3 songs on it.
Goodness gracious.
Yes. And the name of the EP is called Fluid Trance Centauri.
Fluid Trance Centauri. Like Atari?
No, I looked it up because I was like, do they mean like centaur? But I think what they're referring to is there's an astrological thing with 3 stars. And I'm sure that's what it is, because when you look at the artwork, that's...
Yeah, so it's some sort of astrological terminology.
And you can kind of hear, without them doing it yet, where they're going to go next.
Okay.
Because this is the last sounding album like this.
Okay.
It's much more sparse than what you've already heard. I don't want to tell you too much about it because I want you to listen to it. It's just let me just play a song and then
Just
we'll get into
play
it.
a
We're just
song
going to get
already.
into it. But I will give one little description, which is I think this EP, actually, no, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to play music because I'm about to tell you something I didn't want to tell you.
Okay.
And I don't want to do that.
Cliffhanger.
So the first song you're going to hear is called Fluidum. Fluidum.
Fluidum.
Fluidum. And it's a big heart. If I could make a heart any bigger, I would. How different does that sound?
And completely and utterly different.
What do you think's different about it?
Well, I mean, the production of the recording itself is much cleaner, and there was no like super distorted guitars. That was a very clean sounding guitar. It had a,
For now.
like some sort of echo kind of effect going on, and there was a little, I don't know, glockenspiel.
There's space to it.
There was space.
So the thing I was going to say that I waited to now to say.
I see.
This EP marries ambient music with noise and shoegaze to perfection, in my opinion. It is so sparse, quiet, and then so freaking loud. It's moody with a capital M.
Okay.
And it's just a joy to behold. One of my all-time favorite works of art is this EP.
Goodness
I cannot
gracious.
overstate how much this EP has moved me in my life. Like, it is phenomenal. Like, I was actually only going to do this, but it's just 3 songs. And I do love the other things. So I was like, no, we'll cover all of it. But it's one of those things, like, when I talk to people who really like this genre of music, I'm like, do you know about that? And they're like, if they do, I get really excited and they're like, yes, because it's just like a response. Like, no one's ever been like, if they know what it is, go, like, it's beautiful. And I'd like to listen to a little bit more of the songs. It's the way the song builds. It's slow and beautiful. And it does bring back some of the other elements from the other records you've heard, but in a new way. And I think that was just groundbreaking. I think people lost their shit. You ready to hear a little bit more?
Including you.
Yeah, but I've been looking it up and lots of the internet agrees with me. So
Their shit has been lost.
hello and welcome. Yes. Let's listen to a little bit more of Fluidum.
Yeah.
It just shows a restraint that they didn't show before. Like, because I've said I like it when people lose it, and I just love that it's like it's so like you can't tell it's coming. You don't know it's coming. Like, from the moment of hearing that, if you had not know anything about this band, you would not expect it to go where it's going to go.
No.
And what a wonderful thing. We need more of that. But my favorite part of the song is this next section, and I would like you to hear it, because it's the same build up, but this time with the voice and the instrumentation together.
Okay.
Which is a great thing.
Yeah, I like how the guitar, whenever the drums stop, the guitar like keeps going and
Yeah.
echoing and doing whatever it's doing.
Isn't that a nice thing?
Yes.
I just, everything about it. And it's interesting. I was just looking up to make sure I'm right, but I am right. The guitar in this song sounds like the guitar on Slow Dive's Pygmalion, which is their ambient experimental record.
Uh-huh.
Because this record came out before. This came out in 93, and I'm sure that Neil Halstead was pretty influenced by it, because you can hear it in the Slow Dive record, Pygmalion, big time. It's beautiful. They're both beautiful. Both separate pieces of work, but that guitar sounds very much like this one song on the record. Anyway, love it, love it, love it. Would you like to hear a second song out of the 3?
No, I'm
this
done.
one is Alpha Centauri.
Ooh.
What do you think that means, Brian?
The next one in line. Alpha is A, I think, in Greek.
Yeah?
So it's the next song on the record, I imagine.
You think so? I mean, I don't
That's
know.
my guess.
I don't. It's all Greek to me. I don't know.
Space music.
Oh my gosh, you love space music.
I do.
I need to hear a little bit more of this song, because it It does
Does
lots
that?
of beautiful, atmospheric, gorgeous things. Let's listen to a bit more of Alpha Centauri.
Yeah.
It's like a freaking orchestra.
Yeah, it's weird.
Isn't that cool? You heard like, especially like the way it's being structured.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much more classically influenced than the other stuff. It's like crazy. You know, it's crazy, Brian. It's insane. I don't know what to do. Oh my God. It just freaks me out. Like, it totally freaks me out.
You don't say.
I wrote this little note too. I said, when I used to listen to this, I felt absorbed by it, transported to this place of atmosphere and an atmosphere that it created. The music demanded my attention. I didn't want to do anything but listen to it over and over again.
Goodness
Like,
gracious.
I was so, you know, so bewitched by it, I would say. Let's listen to another part of Alpha Centauri. The funny thing is I'm freaking out so much while we're listening to this music. I usually give Brian a clue with my finger to like go down, but I'm like spazzing out over here. I'm like, not spazzing. Sorry, I'm not using that term. I'm losing my mind over here and
Yes.
I'm making motions with my hand and he just thinks like I'm like into the music. And I'm like, no, go down.
It's good. I'm liking it too.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, it's
I'm
crazy.
so glad that you like it.
It's very unique.
Isn't it? That's what I was
Yes.
saying. Like they really, even within the ambient electronic stuff they get into, it's very, very much their own thing. I'm just not as into that as I am into this because, you know, for obvious reasons, if you've been listening to this podcast and the things I like, it would make sense. I just, all of it. This is the last song, Brian. As I
Okay.
was describing before, this song is trance. So this is kind of like you're being in a trance. And it has in parentheses, between the stars, which obviously tells you that the name is probably referring to the constellation I was talking about.
Yes, they're getting very spacey.
So let's listen to trance.
This is probably an unfair
I'll do
comparison,
it.
but
I love unfair comparisons.
it,
Weird
the-
Al?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. The very first song kind of reminded me of like what the Beatles were doing after they went to India and like had their experience in the ashram or whatever they were at. Right, that kind of off tempo or again, don't want to get into like genres or something. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but like.
That's what we do here.
Eastern like music from the Middle East or India, those areas, they have a different like time signature. You know, it's not just 4/4 time. Like things happen in a much different tempo, and then like the way that the instruments line up as well felt
think-
very similar to me. In
I
that.
think you're very keen. I think you're right, probably. I definitely think
and
you're
almost
hearing
you are almost describing a religious experience you were
that. I
having.
feel it
Melissa.
that way. Yeah,
So maybe that's where they were going with this.
it is. Yeah, it
They're
is
being
my
more
ecstasy of Saint Theresa
contemplative.
about ecstasy of Saint Theresa.
That's right.
It's within itself.
Yes.
It's very meta. Let's listen to a bit more of trance.
Yeah.
What am I going to say? What are you going to say?
You have decided that maybe this wasn't the right thing to do and that you were wrong all along.
So beautiful.
Yes.
So beautiful. And it's going to get even better because this is the, because I only have 3 songs on this EP. And this is the last song we're doing. It's a 4-parter.
So wait, you're saying we're done now?
No,
Okay.
this is the 3rd part of the song.
Oh, I got it.
A 4-parters when you play 4
I've gotten so sucked into the trance, I've forgotten where we
You're
started.
between the stars.
I-
Okay, let's listen to a little bit more. I think I only put that part just to let you know that it's going to get a little quiet. It's going to, you're just going to grab your blanket and get to your mat. And then it's going to do some great things. Wouldn't that be great? I have actually had the experience where there's been good music played in a yoga class. It seldomly happens, but occasionally I've been like, holy crap, is that guy playing that? Like I've heard like ambient music that I enjoy, like that is like good music. And I'm like, I'm kind of in shock when it happens a little bit.
All the yoga instructors out there, we like your music.
I like yoga very much. You can't say that when you go, it's always like, you're like, I'm really into this. Like, not usually. But I enjoyed it. I mean, I like world music. When they play that, yes, I'm talking about more like the elevator version of those things. Like when you're getting a massage or something.
Yes, right.
This is the last part of the song I'm going to play for now. And then we'll probably play a little bit more as we end it. But let's listen to a little bit more of trance.
Okay.
So freaking joyful.
They're doing it.
Isn't it joyful?
Yeah, it's
like I
good.
just think when I hear that, like I know I say this a lot on this podcast, but I really do mean it. Like it just makes me so dang happy.
Picks you
like
up.
that's the beautiful thing about music and art and good things that exist that people create, that human beings actually make.
They do.
Is just that it can move you like that. Like we were talking about, we were at a cafe yesterday having some cake and this really bad music was on, really bad. And like I just could not handle, like I almost vomited. I told Brian, I was
No,
like,
you did
I think
not.
I'm gonna throw up because it was also I think I was a little bit, we'd stayed out really late, but I just didn't feel good. And but it really can affect you so much,
It's
and
true.
like it's just so nice when you hear something that's so moving. And I think that's what I was, like I said, the reason this EP was so impactful to me and the work of Ecstasy of Saint Theresa, thank you so much for making. It's just that it really did that, it really transformed. It's just, the things like that open your brain up where you're just like, oh, music can do this to me. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I think that's why I don't do lines on a table. Bring it back. Cause that does that to me. I imagine that's probably what that feeling is like.
Yeah.
Although I think it's better, but
I hope that when the aliens come to destroy Earth and they look at like how terrible we are,
well, that's how it's going to happen.
that's the one thing they're like, well, They did make some pretty decent music and some okay art.
As long as they don't hear what we were listening to at that coffee shop, we're doomed. I would tell you what it was, but I don't even know what it was.
Yeah, you can't really
It's
say
bad.
what it was.
It was bad. But I want to tell you about Ecstasy of Saint Theresa, Brian. And this is the part I thought was kind of amusing. It's not funny, but it's a little funny to me. So I was like, why did they change so drastically in their musical styles? And I will just preface this by saying that I do not believe this is the reason. It may have been like maybe gave them an idea, but I don't think that people just do this, but I think it's funny. It was on like CD Baby or Songkick site or something. And it said that in 1994, somebody broke into their house and stole all of their instruments or a lot of their instruments. And after this, the Jan Machau bought an old PC and started to create electronic music. Other members of the band left.
They're like,
So the founding
This is
members
the
aren't still in the
sign.
band. Like when they go, and the next record they put out in 1993, which I think the house thing must have happened before that, because the next record they put out that is more electronic is in 1993. It's called Free D, and it's more techno influenced. Which isn't as much my thing.
Right.
But I did like some of that stuff, and I did listen to that record, and I did enjoy it. Just over time, the stuff that I'm more into is the stuff from beforehand. But
Wow.
by all means, try things out. But I do like that idea of like, someone steals your guitar, so you're like, well, I guess now we're making electronic music. There's no other thing we can do, you know?
Fate has...
We can't find another guitar store. We're just going to have to buy keyboards. You know, it doesn't make any sense. But they already had keyboards, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What a unique, beautiful band, though.
Wow, yes. Interesting. No clue.
Yes.
Zero ideas about this band. I did
hope-
not know they existed
I
at
hope
all.
That changes for you now.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yes.
We'll see. Maybe not.
Well, thank you
Thank you
for doing this with me, Brian.
This was genuine going to school today. Learned something
No.
completely new that I'd never heard of whatsoever. But of course, I look forward to listening to the mix. I got some time on the road coming up.
You do.
So I will have plenty of time, no excuses, to listen to this mix.
And, you know, if you are so inclined and you like our podcast, please follow us on the Instagram under I Already Told You That. We post very occasional content that you might enjoy.
And follow the podcast, subscribe to the podcast.
Yeah, subscribe
that
to
helps.
it. It does help because I see consistent listening, but not as much of that. So do it. Push the,
Hit the
subscribe thing.
subscribe. Tell your friends,
Yeah.
by golly,
And
if you
they'll
like
say,
the podcast.
I don't like that kind of stuff. And you could tell them that I said it's because they just don't know about it. And they'll like that.
And there's good ones.
It's a big turnoff.
You can go back and listen to all the
Yeah.
ones I
There's
did.
good ones.
That were good.
Yeah, there were.
No, there's
Hey.
plenty to listen to. Because, gosh, we're almost up to 65. I think
I
we're
don't
at
know.
63.
I think we're probably 62 or something.
62. So there's plenty to choose from.
Yeah, plenty
ladies
of
and gentlemen.
podcasts. Listen to them and also listen to the music. I'm going to put a link to that article about the Ecstasy of Saint Theresa. And once again, I do apologize if you are from Prague or Czechoslovakia and you're hearing me say things wrong. I
The
don't
Czech
mean to.
Republic.
Czech
I don't
Republic.
think
I didn't mean to
Czechoslovakia
say that.
exists
I
anymore.
meant to say Czech Republic. Oh my gosh, I'm getting myself in all kinds of trouble. Anyway, I didn't mean to. But please enjoy, and I'm gonna have, like I said, a link to that article, and also they have a website, and I'll have a link to that as well.
Excellent.
And you can enjoy it, and listen to some Ecstasy of Saint Theresa, y'all.
What are we going to go out on here, Melissa?
A little bit more of trance. 'Cause
Okay.
why the heck not?
Why the heck not? Well, you did it again. You listened to another episode of I Already Told You That. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again soon.
Bye.